Chapter 772. Please allow me to explain why the epilogue dragged on for so many days. It's not because I forgot to write it every night, but because my computer had a problem. 1 hour good, but 1 day bad. For a computer idiot like me, this is one of the most frustrating things in the world. Fortunately, the problem occurred after the end. I warn everyone in advance, this epilogue perfectly fulfills my desire to be long-winded. The word count is more than 20,000, very long and boring. If you don't want to read it, you can close it at any time. Below is the main body of the epilogue. Please finish reading it at the end. Around 2006, I thought of a story. This story only had the beginning of an illegitimate child, and then I thought of the illegitimate child's father, but I didn't understand the illegitimate child's mother. At the beginning of the story, the illegitimate child's mother had a rather romantic life. When the illegitimate child was 4 years old, she died in a fire. She was a pitiful and respectable mother. But as a person from the same world, I felt injustice for the mother. I felt that this was wrong. Why should an outstanding woman suffer like that in a patriarchal society? So I changed the beginning of the story. At the very least, the mother had to have a good life first. After I finished writing Vermilion Bird, at the end of April 2007, when the flowers were really blooming, I began writing Qing Yu's Year. I started this epilogue this way not because I wanted to tell everyone that this story started with Yi Qingmei, but because the first thing I thought about was the illegitimate child. This illegitimate child did not need to think about it. He naturally appeared and stood in front of me, ready to enter the story and act as the main character. Everything about Fan Xian, and why I didn't particularly like him, will be discussed later. At this time, I will first talk about the course of writing Qing Yu's Year in the past 2 years. 2 years was not a short period of time. It took up quite a lot of time in my life. For those of you who have been reading novels, you must have felt the same way. But I guess what everyone felt was that Qing Yu's Year was like a nanny who helped cook and wash clothes at home every day, and a rather beautiful one at that. Watching, chatting, and gossiping, naturally, she could not reach out to do anything. However, when this little nanny broke the bowls or the washing machine and made us unhappy, we could scold her or teach her a lesson or two. Of course, most of the time, we would still praise her for her neat work. I think it was because she was beautiful, just like how I liked the little nanny in Growing Pains. Spending time with everyone was the greatest use a novel could have. It was like a beautiful housekeeper. Just hanging around in front of everyone was quite good. After all, we didn't care about household chores, just like how we didn't need to care if there were any profound words in the Qing Yu Year, or if there were any reflections on life. Because there weren't any. I just wanted to write a story to pass time for everyone. After accompanying him for a long time, there would naturally be feelings. He started writing the story at the end of April 2007 and officially published it on Qidian on the 1st of May. Many things happened in the past 20 months. At this moment, I began to recall my memories. I can't forget fighting for monthly votes in the new book month because I've never been so nervous and tired in my life. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't write much. Maybe it was just the pressure. A friend came from afar and accompanied me for a few days. Finally, I managed to save some manuscripts in the new book month. Oh my God, I saved manuscripts. What kind of abnormal achievement was this for me? The chapter of Romance of the Ages had its flaws, but I was too lazy to care. A novel might need to be logical and consistent, but I never thought that was the most important task. The most important task should be to make my friends who read the book happy, and to make my own writing happy. But to be honest, I didn't like the chapter one wrote. Again, I was under a lot of pressure at the time, but there were some sentences that I liked. From the first day I published the book, I told everyone that since I'm already in the novel, I should be more careful in certain aspects. In the first volume, I said that things like copying poems have always been seen as a great poison. But I always felt that if there were benefits, why wouldn't I want them? What's more, from the beginning of searching for Qing, this hobby of mine has always been the same. The things I write are often praised or criticized as pretentious. But I don't copy poems, I don't use them to make a name for myself. I watch as my fame drifts away, but I suppress the itch in my heart, suppress the desire for vanity, suppress it to the point of vomiting blood, and wait for a few decades to bring the beautiful sentences that don't exist in this world to my grave. Isn't this what it means to be pretentious? When the poem was published, everyone's reaction was very strong. At least the monthly votes were very strong. The new book month won 3rd place, and I got an extra 6,000 yuan. This was the first time I got a monthly votes prize. It felt great. It seems that there are many people who share the same hobby as me. I'm very happy. After the new book month ended, I thought it would be much more relaxing. Anyway, I never thought of fighting for monthly votes. But who knew that at the beginning of July 2007, I had to go to Beijing to receive a certain award from Vermilion Bird magazine. At that time, I didn't have the money to buy a book, so I was free for a few days. Luckily, I had some manuscripts saved up, so I managed to get through those 2 days. The beauty with the rash helped me update. Beauties are always lazy, so she refused to help me come up with chapter titles. The friend who helped me save the manuscripts also went to Beijing, but this time she didn't write a single word because she was very busy in Beijing. She even met a few new friends, and Shizhong. When I came back, I felt uneasy because I didn't have any manuscripts saved up. From then until now, I didn't have any manuscripts saved up for the rest of the year. I always write as I go, because this is the true lazy me. The year 2007 after July was very stable. I wrote very steadily. Occasionally, I would write 3,000 words a day for 4 to 5 days. Of course, it was normal for me to write 7,000 to 9,000 words a day. Anyway, everyone wasn't in a hurry, and I wasn't in a hurry either. As the story progressed, I wrote more when I was in a good state, and I wrote less when I was in a bad state. It's still the same word, lazy. But I didn't stop updating, which was very powerful. In December, I realized something, so I started to get monthly votes. First, I didn't want to waste the good intentions of those readers who voted for me every month. Second, I found that I was diligent enough, and my writing wasn't bad. I could live up to their votes. Third, the most important thing was that I found that people were actually willing to help me get monthly votes. I could really squeeze into the top few, and I could really earn a bonus. Who wouldn't do such a good thing? From then on, I threw myself into this magnificent cause, and I couldn't extricate myself. There was a small interlude. On the 14th of January 2008, due to the snowstorm on the flight from Guangzhou to Yichang, I had to take 2 free flights in the air, which delayed the update. This caused the first day of the Qing New Year to stop updating. It was very painful, just like my first night. I'm going down the wrong path. Forgive me, I'm really angry. On that day, I found that I was very long-winded and flowy, just like in the Qing New Year. Everyone endured it and persevered until the end. There were many more, and I had endured for the past 2 years. I didn't care about this epilogue. Anyway, this chapter didn't cost money, so I just needed to say a few more words. I hope that I won't make a mistake like the previous chapter. I really can't afford to embarrass myself again, because it won't be the first time, nor will it be the second time. Back to the topic, during the Spring Festival of 2008, I went back to my hometown and took 10 days off. It just so happened that I finished the Jiangnan chapter. It was normal that I didn't write, because my cousin forgot to move the television over to his new house. I officially entered the year 2008. Everything was normal, and everything was not normal. Because I started to get monthly votes, there was more pressure to write. The number was still not a lot, but my brain was exhausted. Fortunately, the monthly votes made it into the top 6 and top 3, and not just once. I was very proud. It was all thanks to everyone. In the 7th month of 2008, there was an annual meeting in Shanghai. Northeast leaders were interviewed. The updates were few and scattered. It was also a tense time for Dong Mountain. The book review and comments section was boiling with resentment. That month, I didn't ask for monthly votes. Was it to make up for everyone's mental trauma? But what about me? Phew. I continued to write like this. I wrote mechanically. I wrote numbly. I wrote emotionally. I wrote with emotion. 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 I wrote with grief and indignation. Finally, I wrote until the 24th and 25th of this year. Almost 2 years of time was very long. Starting from Danzhou, there were 7 chapters in total. It was a lot. Such a large story, with so many characters, required more than 3 million words to describe. I was very proud that I had controlled this story. The problem was that this kind of control made me tired both physically and mentally. The problem was that this kind of control exhausted me physically and mentally. I was very tired. There were countless passages in the document, and there were countless useless ones. There were countless words to remind me of certain details that I hadn't forgotten, but there were still many that I had to throw away. Previously, at the end of the document, I was reading and deleting as I did so. I was a little reluctant to delete. Even I was surprised by my diligence. My teacher had once said that a good memory was not as good as a bad pen. It was true. I had done a lot of preparation work and memorized a lot of things. Although I might not be able to use all of them, I felt that my attitude was very powerful. Just as the Qing Emperor had said on Dong Mountain, I had never been so powerful in my life. I had originally thought that at this moment, I would feel like when I finished writing the Vermilion Bird story. There would be a wave of tiredness, confusion, emptiness, and confusion from the depths of my heart. However, at the end of the Qing New Year, other than a little tiredness, there were not many other emotions. On the contrary, there was a kind of calm joy. The review of my writing journey had come to an end. However, with so many words, it seemed that it did not fully reflect my hard work and contributions. I was a bit dissatisfied, but I didn't continue. Next, I would return to the Qing New Year book, as well as the people in the book that everyone has always remembered, as well as the feelings between these people, as well as my feelings toward them, you, and many other things. Where should I start? Let's start with the appearance of the character. I'll write about whoever comes to mind. If there are characters I don't remember, then forget it. The young patient lying in the hospital is called Fan Shen. He hasn't graduated from university yet. He says he is still a virgin, but he is about to die. Yes, this is the male lead of the Qing New Year story. As for his previous life, I didn't describe too much. Even the position of chairman of the student council that I had planned out when I first designed the story was not pointed out in the end. The male lead's surname was Fan Xian, and his courtesy name was Nji. Since he had come, he should take things as they come. The last words he said in the Qing New Year were actually the purpose of this book. This is Fan Xian's life. It is completely different from his mother's life. In my opinion, the previous life cannot affect the future. In a completely new world, one needs to live from the beginning. Since it is so, there is no need to touch too much on the matters of the previous life. The attitude of this life is actually the same as the attitude you and I have in this world. Humans cannot become philosophers or natural-born revolutionaries just because they have lived 2 lives. They are still insignificant and lowly, you and I, and do our best to live as ordinary and peaceful as possible. I have said before that I don't really like the character of Fan Xian, at least not the Fan Xian in front of the meadow, or perhaps compared to the other characters in the book. The reason for this is actually not complicated. If we tear off the clothes on Fan Xian's body and strip away the golden light brought by the transmigration of mother and son, the naked him is just a naked you and a naked me. Greedy for life, afraid of death, fond of ease, fond of leisure, fond of enjoyment, has a moral outlook formed after education, but when it comes to carrying it out, it is very vulgar, ambiguous, vain, used to pretending, fond of beauty, but unable to let go of his status, insisting that he is still a white-clothed CJ youth who believes in love. He wants to follow his brother's love, but he also doesn't want to lose his sister-in-law's love. He wants to take care of one without losing the other. In the end, he finds that he can't change anything, not even himself. He can only act according to the established guidelines and walk down a certain path. It can be said that this is moderate, gentle, and ordinary. On the Dragon Sky Forum, a forum member once said the words, "hometown wish." I think it is true. Hometown wish is the thief of virtue. However, the vast majority of people, including you and me, are like this, especially those of us who appear on the internet. Of course, if you are not the type of person I am referring to, please forgive me for being extreme. I don't like the attitude that I may sometimes display, it is not direct enough. I am too familiar with this kind of person. The people around me, including a certain part of myself, are actually very similar to Fan Xian, so I am unable to like Fan Xian too much. In the story of Qing Yu's year, there were also a few idealists. In front of these idealists, no matter how beautiful Fan Xian was, no matter how he alternated between white and black, spat out poems, spat out a mouthful of blood, was supported by a servant girl to see the begonia flowers, and then flew in the wind to confidently fight the world, there was always a problem with his heart, and the light was slightly dim. I myself cannot be an idealist. I also feel that there is no major problem with Fan Xian's attitude towards life. In fact, it is the best attitude towards the people and things around him. However, I still respect idealists, because I cannot do it myself, so it is difficult for me to respect Fan Xian. Fan Xian is only you and me. Just like the me who wrote this story and the you who read this story, if there really came a day when you were struck by lightning and transmigrated, if you had Fan Xian's good luck, the blessings of the predecessors, and the beautiful body, perhaps you would be another Fan Xian. Fortunately, Fan Xian improved in the end, which is gratifying. It is just that I wrote it rather stiffly. Such a story cannot give me too much time and the possibility of too many words to describe the true growth of the middle-aged Fan Xian. Speaking of this, I suddenly thought, Fan Xian really does look like a handsome middle-aged professor who has lost his hot-bloodedness a long time ago. I know a professor who is not bad when it comes to love. Whether or not Fan Xian's view of the world is correct does not need to be discussed, because he is not a saint who looks 500 years ahead and 500 years behind. But at least he has a relatively firm view of something, and that is not bad. It was not until the cave in Shi Mountain, in front of the dying Xiaofan, that Fan Xian truly confirmed his sense of belonging to this world. This is something that Gidge Pig once mentioned, and I deeply agree with it. Fan Xian is not an indecisive person, but he wants to take care of everyone too much. It is like the feeling of smoothing things over. I mentioned this a little bit before, but I will not go into it here. His most admirable strength is probably his diligence, his hard work to survive, and his spirit of seeking a better life. This is probably the most common strength, but it is also the strength that is most worthy of applause. As for Fan Xian's love life, it is really a mess. This is mainly my fault, because I was the one who wrote him. Based on my understanding of men, who are creatures with the lower half of their bodies, once they are reincarnated into a society like the Kingdom of Qing, especially with Fan Xian's background, it is only logical that he would have a maid at 12, a maid at 13, and a maid at 14. Then he would go around the world, poor and virtuous, rich and have a large number of wives and concubines. It may not sound good to female readers, but it is true. A nicer phrase would be nothing more than saving the world's pitiful orphan girls, lingering around, spoiling others, constantly searching for a partner on the road of revolution, a partner whose outlook on life and the world can keep up with his footsteps, so it is my fault. I clearly know that I love beautiful women, but I still believe in this thing called love. So I arranged for Fan Xian to enter the temple of Qing and see his fiancée nibbling on a drumstick. I wrote it very happily. How could I let go of a woman like Lin Wanner? How could I not be moved by this kind of love story? I thought of Zhang Mengmeng's song. It is my fault again. I also like the new and never get tired of the old. In an evil society where men are allowed to have a few women, I can't help but let Fan Xian meet a different kind of woman, a woman who revisits the past, and every one of them is very happy, because things that cannot be done in reality are put into novels. This is the true meaning of fantasy, and I am no exception. Either it is more straightforward, like that old hoodlum Duan Zhengchun, or it is to see men as a gelding, proudly standing among the grassland horses, only lowering his head to rub against the ones beside him. Fan Xian wants both. As the saying goes, in the later years of a hoodlum, he will also shed tears when reading love letters. Fan Xian's attitude towards love is slightly better than Zhang Wuji's, and much better than a man with 3 bad habits. He probably won't hate me too much. Let's talk about Fan Xian's feelings towards men. Please note, there is no gay burning factor here, just a few words. From the wedge, it can be clearly seen that he is a person without parents, so he has some hidden Oedipus complex. So even if Yi Qingmei is not much older than him, even if the emperor does not seem to be a good father, even if Fan Jian has nothing to do with him, even if Chen Pingping can never have a son, even if Wu Zhu is about the same age as Chen Pingping, but as he tosses and turns, Fan Xian's feelings towards these men have finally been born. Because we are all very practical people, if someone is good to you, you will naturally be good to them, remember they're good, and thus develop feelings. Of the men mentioned above, apart from the really ugly teacher Fei Ti, they all treated Fan Xian very well. Some people might say what the Qing emperor did to the newly born Xian Xian and so on. Thinking about it from a different perspective, the feelings between men need time to develop. The Qing emperor had once told Fan Xian in the little building that when Fan Xian was in Danzhou, the Qing emperor often heard news of him either through Chen Pingping or Fan Jian. A person like Fan Xian, who knows how to pretend to smile shyly, is easy to like. After seeing more, hearing more, and knowing more, he will develop feelings. Perhaps one could make a horizontal comparison. Everyone would find that the Qing emperor's trust and love for Fan Xian was truly not something his sons could compare to. For one, it was because Fan Xian really knew how to pretend. From before the Hanging Temple, he had truly tricked the great emperor. For another, it was probably because the Qing emperor felt guilty and had thoughts of shifting his affection, so the Qing emperor treated Fan Xian very well. Naturally, this was for the Qing emperor, who was an evil gathering of royal power. It was not to be compared to a normal father. Fan Xian's feelings for Yi Qingmei were rather complicated. This was not clear. The book said a lot of superficial things, so I won't go into specifics. What else was there to say about Fan Xian? It seemed that there was none. Oh, right, about his abilities. His abilities are actually quite good. After all, he is the male lead. Wu Zhu, the cute bamboo doll, the cold bamboo commander, the forever black-masked youth, and the rainbow in his heart that no one knows about. There is nothing much to say about Wu Zhu because I like him very much. If I praise Wu Zhu too much, I will go to hell. If I cover my face and say, the reason Wu Zhu is called Wu Zhu is because of the pronunciation of Yuzu. If you know, then you know. If you don't know, then let the shameless me go. I just want to talk about the matter of Wu Zhu and Yi Qingmei. The rainbow in his heart, enshrouded in thousands of years of ice and snow, burst forth from the little girl who, to this day, had appeared in the temple for some unknown reason. Yi Qingmei had allowed a fresh soul to be born into this world. What was Wu Zhu's feeling toward Yi Qingmei? To borrow from the comment of a great book friend, it was, without question, Wu Zhu has the least affection for Xiao Yezi. To her, he only has cold metal promises. However, Wu Zhu also has the most affection for Xiao Yezi. She is his world. Alright, Wu Zhu stopped here because he had never said much. Presently, he was on Dong Mountain recovering from his injuries. He didn't know if the materials 13th Wang went to the temple to steal would be enough for him to live for another 500 years. Chen Pingping was the third character to appear in the wedge. From then on, everyone should know his importance. This eunuch Chen Wuchang who liked to stick a fake beard under his chin, this cripple who had been in a wheelchair for half his life, this skinny old man who was afraid of the cold and liked to cover his knees with wool blankets, and this director of the Overwatch Council who liked to cover the windows of his Overwatch Council room with a piece of black cloth. I couldn't say much about Chen Pingping because I also liked him. Of the male characters in the book, I liked him and Wu Zhu the most because they were very manly. My heart yearned for them. Chen Pingping's name should have been changed later by Yi Qingmei. In reality, it was printed with Chen Pingping, the awesome person. When I read the records of the Grand Historian, I felt that Chen Pingping was too awesome. Why? No one knew exactly why he was so awesome. Even Taisher Gong didn't know and couldn't say for sure. There was a time when Chen Pingping, who liked to joke around, was also very awesome. There was no need to mention his past achievements. I liked the image of this old cripple the most. He was a little yellow flower, a wheelchair, and a pure heart under the skin of an old orange. Chen Pingping was an idealist. Although his ideals were a bit vague, there was a good saying that it was not difficult to do one good deed. What was difficult was to do good deeds for a lifetime. It was not difficult for Chen Pingping to make a conspiracy. What was difficult was to make a conspiracy for a lifetime and still live for the brightest thing in his heart. What was it that shone in Chen Pingping's heart? It was not the conflict of ideas, nor was it the peace and happiness of the common people. It was definitely not the prosperity of the Qing dynasty. It was the promise of the past. He remembered someone's good deeds. He was more disdainful of being a slave than Fan Xian, a modern man. He firmly guarded that woman's shining ideals. Guarding someone else's ideals for a lifetime was idealism. I didn't have any regrets about the description of Chen Pingping in the book because it was written with great care. It had reached the limit of my ability. I felt that I had not let Chen Pingping down. From the beginning, I had set up his ending. I didn't have any sudden thoughts. I only respected him and fulfilled his wishes. The two guns in the black wheelchair were because I had seen a movie called Lone Wolf when I was young. The wheelchair in the movie had left a deep impression on me. I had to give it to Sister Pingping to use. As for his final words before he died, I had thought of them at the beginning of the story. I guarded those words for a whole year. I wanted to tell everyone that this eunuch, this damned eunuch, also had a gun. In reality, he had more guts than most men. At the end of the chapter, I could even shamelessly explain and explain again and again. Please understand me. I truly wanted everyone to feel my feelings. I hoped that Chen Pingping could still collect long-horned, long-tailed beauties in hell. Of course, he could not go to heaven. I spoke of whoever I thought of. That is why I am talking about the Minister of Revenue, Fan Jian. I have many apologies for him. Because there was too little space, I did not write clearly about his feelings and thoughts. However, compared to Prime Minister Lin Ruofu, who guarded Wuzhou, he was more open-minded. The man who stayed in the brothel was actually closer to the role of an official than Chen Pingping. Thus, he was actually very pained. In the end, he could only float away and resign. He probably had hopes for the Qing kingdom, but he could only passively watch all of this happen. Because of Fan Xian, he had to do something he actually did not want to do. Did Fan Jian have any feelings for Yi Qingmei? Who knows? At least, I don't know. At the time, I didn't write it, so I didn't think about it. To say there were no feelings would be a lie. As for whether it was between a man and a woman or between brother and sister, I still didn't think about it. However, the Fan clan helped Yi Qingmei preserve the only bloodline in this world and indirectly caused Fan Xian's arrival. This already explains a lot. Fan Xian's future generations will all have the surname Fan. Making the Fan family of Danzhou famous can be considered a small compensation. However, I have thought about Minister Fan's attitude toward Fan Xian. In reality, Fan Jian had always thought that if the emperor wanted his son back, he would probably force Ruoruo to marry Fan Xian. Don't forget, when Ruoruo was still very young and her health was very poor, this Count Sinan had sent his only daughter back to Danzhou. Later, he had secretly maintained the correspondence between Danzhou and Jingdou. Why was this? Unfortunately, in the end, Fan Xian returned to the Fan clan's ancestral hall. While Minister Fan was gratified, would he also feel a little disappointed? I always thought that many middle-aged men might have some kind of fantasy. They would have their own son or daughter marry another woman's son or daughter in order to satisfy their unfulfilled desires. Truly, many people would fantasize about forming this kind of relationship with their first love. Of course, there are also friends who would directly direct their strategic gazes toward the children of their first love. This is something I admire. Speaking of this, I suddenly thought of Crown Prince Jing, Li Hongqing, so I mentioned Li Hongqing. As for the Crown Prince, I liked him very much. It seemed that I liked all the people who appeared in the epilogue so far. Was this not too unfair to Fan Xian? Perhaps it was because I felt that Fan Xian was like my son, so I habitually imitated Wu Zhu and used a stick to educate him? The reason I liked Li Hongqing was very simple. Back then, he and the second prince traveled together, but it was only for the sake of friendship. He was a bit naive, but he was bright enough. In the Li royal family, only the eldest prince and Hongqing might have slightly broken away from the natural gloominess of the royal family. Hongqing's bright and lively aura was even more brilliant. In the book review section, there was a post that talked about this, and I liked it very much. Li Hongqing went after Miss Fan. This kind of shameless dog spirit is worth most of us men to learn from. As for the friends who hoped that Miss Fan and her brother would be together, they could all imagine the female doctors after the age of 30. In any case, this was an open ending, an ending that did not offend anyone. This also proved what I said earlier. I really was that kind of person. The Crown Prince, the second prince, and the Great Prince did not say too much because the first two in the book had already dissected it before they died. There was nothing to say here. I just felt some sympathy for Li Qingqian. His luck was too bad. His fate was not good. His father was too strange. His father always thought that everyone in the world was like a cockroach like him. As for the second prince, it was just as he said. He worked hard to the end and found that he had become the biggest joke. What an absurd reality this was. In the world of the Qin kingdom, there were no real precious jade or fake precious jade. There were only two young people who were very similar. Because the paths of their lives were different, they gave birth to completely different fruits. The great prince wished that he would be filial to Lady Ning in Dongyi and unite well with the great princess, Wang Tong, and Ma Suasua. These three were not simple women. He wished that he could be like he was on the western Hu grasslands, undefeated in every battle. Of course, I thought this was an extravagant hope. This person, who had given Fan Xian the most crucial support at the most critical moment, could not hope that Fan Xian would continue to help him with family matters in the future. I had to talk about Yan Bingyun. I could only say, it was hard to say. This person was hard to say, so I had nothing to say. White-robed young master, who did he work hard for? It was fine as long as the girls continued to look at him. I truly had nothing to say. Wang Qinian could say something. He was very good at talking. The cold-faced clown's skill was not fully displayed because there was indeed not enough space. This story of over 3 million words seemed long, but there were too many people and things in it. However, as Fan Xian's most trusted person, the first leader of the Qinian unit, and the best supporting character in the world, he already had glory. Don't forget the keys, chests, and many, many secrets that no one in the world, including the Qing Emperor Chen Pingping, knew. While he couldn't sleep in the middle of the night, did he also feel excited? It was as if he had returned to the days when he was a great bandit at the border of the three countries. The name Wang Qinian was the ID of flying general. He had aimed at it a few years ago on the illusory sword and felt it was very good. When he wrote this story, he used it. As for the three great grandmasters, it was truly impossible to say. Just as the Qing emperor had said, they were monsters that should not exist in this world. With such monsters above all living things had to look up to them. Their necks would easily get sore, and the incidence of cervical spondylosis would decrease. However, the benefits were not obvious. If Ku He was not called Zhan Mingyue and was the great-uncle of the northern Qi royal family, if Dong Yi was not Sigu Jian, and if Yi Luyun was not raised to be such a mischievous person, how much trouble would these three great grandmasters have caused? Standing above all living things, they probably wouldn't care about the lives and deaths of all living things. Fortunately, they had their identities and restraints. Thus, they became three nuclear warheads. No one dared to throw them out first until the electromagnetic weapon the Qing emperor had hidden for a long time suddenly moved on Dong Mountain. It directly injured Ku He and Sigu Jian's hearts full of confusion and made them unable to move again. Comparatively speaking, I like Sigu Jian more. The reason is simple. I've written more about him. The longer I've known him, the more I feel for him. However, it seems that Fan Xian is an exception. God, I'm so sorry. I'm starting to talk about him again. Other than 13th Wang, who else does a man need to talk about? It seems that there isn't because I am also sleepy. My mind is truly empty. What should I talk about 13th? In any case, he already has Yi Ling, so I won't disturb him. Brother Valiant General is not as pretty as Lin Qingxia, and he doesn't have Zhou Xingxing to interrupt him. It's inevitable that he is lonely and bored. Fortunately, he has Yi Ling. I repeat, men and women are strange and wonderful things. Snapping my fingers, I thought of Brother Shadow. However, Brother Shadow is a shadow. He is floating behind us, coldly and expressionless as he looks at your computer screens. After talking about men, let's talk about women. First, I will talk about Fan Xian's women. They may not be his women, but in my position, they are all his women. Everyone says there isn't enough drama, but women come. I put my hands together and smiled as I thought, I've endured it. I've truly endured it. There aren't many female characters in the year of the Qing dynasty who can truly leave a deep impression. This is something that can't be helped. War, revenge, and conspiracies will make women walk away. Only those women who don't need to walk away will continue to appear in front of us. Returning to the main topic, I will first talk about Lin Wan. Yes, Fan Xian's official wife, the illegitimate daughter of the eldest princess and Prime Minister Lin, the niece that the Qing emperor dotes on dearly. Her nickname is Yichen, and her cheeks have baby fat. Yes, I wrote based on Lin Yichen. When I began writing the year of the Qing dynasty, I was madly in love with her, just like when I began writing the Vermilion Bird, I was madly in love with Zhang Liangying. Please don't use this to criticize me. I always thought that for a middle-aged man to have such a strong interest in variety entertainment and to be able to like one young woman after another on television proved that this middle-aged man was a very good fellow. For example, the narcissistic me. I also liked the character of Lin Wan. Because I liked her, I cared. Thus, the meeting in the Qing temple and the plot to enter the room were all carefully thought out and written. Even the cumin wind by the lakeside was still something I liked. If I was allowed, I was even willing to write the year of the Qing dynasty into a romance novel. In reality, I really did want to write a romance novel like the one Shi and Yu Qing wrote. However, the subscriptions were slipping, the monthly votes were being chased, and the book review section was crying boredom. Big Brother was watching me, and money was tempting me. Thus, Lin Wan's appearances became fewer and fewer, and her sense of existence became weaker and weaker. In the story of the year of the Qing dynasty, she lived miserably in the cracks and passively accepted everything that was placed on her. This was a very sad thing, but no one could change any of this. I won't hide it from everyone. When I wrote about Jiangnan in Jinghua, I had tried hard for Lin Wan, her sense of existence, but I still failed. There was nothing I could do. At that time, I was truly a bit unhappy. Thus, I complained to the leader, who thought I was sucking up to her. I said these words at this time because I truly felt sorry for Lin Wan, so I bowed in apology. Chapter 773. The theme has been decided, and the name has been decided. It's still the same vulgar and cheap name, Spy. It's hard to say the specific content, because I don't even know what category it is. But it's definitely not a rebirth, and it's definitely going to be something extremely old-fashioned. It's still the same, I only know how to write such things. The release date of the new book is set to be around the 27th of April. It's my fault for making everyone wait for so long. I originally wanted to start writing it on the 1st of April, but I still had something to do. I still had something to do on the 10th, and even today, I still have something to do. Furthermore, it's all family matters, so I'm very sorry. Vermilion Bird has ended, and I've spent a long time in between. At that time, I said that I saw a life and death contract, a wedding, and the birth of a child. It was very stimulating. Now that 2 years have passed, I realize that life is still the same. I'm not pretending to be a petty bourgeoisie like many people say. It's really a midlife crisis, and I need to hurry and earn money. Although I said I'm in a hurry to earn money, I still dragged it out for so long. What a lazy cat, but it's definitely a serious cat. So it seems that the matter of stockpiling manuscripts has nothing to do with me. On the 27th, my fingers started to type. I hope that everyone who has been waiting for so long will give me enough face and call out to me softly. I can't guarantee that the new book, Spy, will be good, but I can guarantee that I will try my best to write it well and seriously. I have confidence in it, and everyone has confidence in me too, because we're all narcissistic. Chapter 774. The faultless chapters of Qing Yu Nian will continue to be updated on Qingdou Novel website. There will be no advertisements on the website, so please collect and recommend it to Qingdou Novel website. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.